All right, friends. We're live. Who's on right now? Let's see who we got. Ron Erickson. Good afternoon. Second best day ever. Glad you're on here, Ron. You're the first one on tonight, pal. Hope you're doing amazing. Hope you're having the best day ever. For you, the second best day ever, right? Seahorse Guitar. Hello from Missouri. Well, thanks for watching from Missouri. I'm glad you're here. We've done a couple podcasts this winter with some folks from Missouri. We just had Brandy Von Holton on last week. That was pretty fun, and I just recorded the other day with Les Clancy. So Missouri's getting represented well. I hope you guys are all doing well. As you jump on, leave a comment, say hello, tell me where you're watching from. Jesse Baisden, did I say the last name all right? From Columbus, Ohio. Hello from Columbus. Awesome. We were there at the, what is it called? The Equine Fair last year in Columbus. That was fun. And then we did a clinic down there. All right. I'm glad I said your last name right, Jesse. Good. Well, those of you that are jumping on right now, we're going to do about a half hour of Q&A. Jenna Erickson, hello. Hello from Arizona. Glad you're here. Can't wait to get down there. What do I got left? About a month and a half, give or take, till I get to be down there. Cheryl Woodruff, hello. Any of you guys have questions, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and post away. We'll get to some questions. I'll take about 30 minutes tonight, and we'll answer whatever you guys want to talk about. I guess while we're waiting for folks to post some questions, my tip for today is be aware when you're leading. I've got a lot of videos lately from some of my coaching students in the master class and others that have been asking about leading questions. And something that I see happening pretty common when you guys are leading your mules and your horses is people holding too close to their head. Like people think that they have more control when they hold right under the halter, right under their head like that. And just so you know, that's just not the case. You don't have more control. I like to have about 3 feet of lead rope between my hand and the halter. So that 3 feet piece of rein right there, that is what controls my mule and my horse. And it's that piece of rein, we call it the leading rein, that I want my mule paying attention to all the time. So I would encourage any of you when you're leading to consider that and try to wean yourself off from holding so tight, because you're at a higher risk right there. And also, just face the facts: your horse is going to get sick of you holding it like that. They're just gonna they don't like it, and then you'll wonder why they get worse and worse to lead. So being aware of where you're holding the rein, that's a huge one. Being aware of their positioning when you're leading them. I don't want my mule coming past my shoulder. So I should be able to raise my arms up on both sides. I don't care if I'm leading on the left side or the right side, but I should be able to lift my arm up, and they should not be coming past that arm. That's where I like to have them. Now that's just me. That people do different things in the show world. They like to have the head up ahead of them. Well, that's the show world. In the real world, that's a really poor position to be in. That's not leading them, that's leading you. So I would highly encourage you to work on that positioning. And then when you are leading them, practice all the time. Like walk 3 steps and then stop, and then try to get them to stop punctually with you. If they don't, you might have to take your lead up straight down, give them a little bump, get them back. But practice all the time, walking, stopping, backing up, and try to get that mule or that horse in time with you. But you have to try it. You have to practice it. You have to really work at that to get them hooked on. Like you can't just drag them around all the time and think that they're gonna work out, because they won't. So that's my tip for that's my tip for today. And it looks like we have some questions coming in by now, so let me start going through them. Melissa Cheney, how's your knee? My knee is healing. I'm feeling really good. This is the first time my knee has not hurt in 19 years, so it's feeling really good. And I'm ready to get out of this brace. I tell you what, Melissa, I'm ready to get out of this brace. I'm in a straight brace for 3 more weeks, and can't ride for a while still, but it feels good. Thanks for asking, Melissa. Thank you. Hello, Donnie. Hello, Karen. Uh, Larry Ray. Hello, Kate Stoffel. How you doing, pal? Um, awesome. Lots of cool friends. Christina, what's up? She says that was a great tip and applies to me. Yeah, it applies to Gunner right now. Practice that immediately. Let's see what we got on the YouTube. Jesse Baisden says, before it gets too crazy, I was wondering what type of mules Sky's parents are, especially Larry's black and white one. He's got a quarter horse mule, the black and white one that you're probably asking about. That's Tuck, and he's a Tennessee Walker. Seahorse Guitar. In your recent podcast with Cody Bizignano, I always say that last name wrong. You briefly mentioned that we need to show respect to our equine before they can respect us. Could you give some examples of how I can do that with my horse? Yeah, the respect thing, Seahorse Guitar, the respect thing is interesting because, they don't have that same capacity, that big old frontal lobe like we do, to have respect in the same way, but for lack of vocabulary. Like, if I want my mule to pay attention to me, then I need to pay attention to them. It's just like any other leadership, really. Um, if you don't show those you're leading that you care about them, they really don't care. you know, uh, Leadership is interesting in all contexts, in leading equines and leading people, but there's so many similarities. Um, for example, a way that I can respect my mule is, let's say I want to get him to do something, whatever it is. Let's just pick a side pass. Okay, I want a side pass. All right. Okay. Here's a way that I can build up uh, rapport with my mule when I'm teaching them the side pass. Would it be more effective to ask them to side pass away from their friends, so away from the draw? Or would it be more effective, and would I build up more rapport with them, side passing them toward their friends? Well, you can imagine the answer. I am going to ask them to side pass toward their friends. I'm going to make the right thing easy. So that's a way that I can come in there and I don't have to pick such big fights. People pick fights with their horses and their mules all the time. We're on the same team. If I'm a winner, uh, it, if my mule is a winner, I'm a winner. If my mule's a loser, well, it starts with me. Um, so another way of going about it is, a lot of people just tell their horses and their mules what to do all the time. They just tell them what to do. They're talking at them, but they don't ever listen to the equine. Like, they don't take that information in. Um, and a relationship like that doesn't work with equine, and it doesn't work with people. It doesn't work with a human and a dog. If I'm always just talking at them and telling them what to do all the time, I'm not going to build up the relationship that I'm striving to achieve. And there's a lot of people that ride. I'm not saying you can't ride and you can't, like, go out on a trail ride and have success. You're going to have success. My point is, if I'm just nagging at my mule all the time, telling them what to do, and I don't take information in to set things up for them to be successful, then I'm not going to reach the level of significance in that relationship that I want to reach. So there's a couple examples for you. Good question, Seahorse Guitar. What else we got? Let's go over here back to Facebook for a second. Heidi Tabat from Wisconsin. How you doing, pal? Is Hannah liking that cold weather up there? Probably not. She wishes she was in Utah right now because it was like 45 today. Let's see. Valerie, hello. Catalina, hello. Um, Catalina says, I caught the last of that tip, but what would you advise if they get ahead of you while walking next to you? Okay, Catalina, the key is to not let them get past you. So you're paying so much attention to your mule that they're not getting past you. This is the awareness I was just talking about with seahorse guitar. Really, I'm paying attention to them. I'm reading that animal. So it takes me so much less, and all I got to do is take that lead rope, and I'll just take it straight down, send a wave down that rein. I'm not trying to jerk down. A lot of people do that. No, send a wave down that rein. It's different. But if they're getting ahead of me, that's all I do is send a wave down that rein, and then I'm going to get them back, get them back, get them back, and get them in that position. Or my favorite thing to do, Catalina, if I have a mule, if I was working with a mule that I'm leading and it's constantly trying to get ahead of me, every time it gets ahead of me, I'm going to go right into moving half circles. If you guys don't know what moving half circles are, it's really hard for me to explain to you right here without something to show you. Go to my online video library, go to the groundwork checklist, and you can see the moving half circles. Okay, there's a bunch of videos on there moving half circles. Um, so anyways, I would the second they pass me, I'm going to go into moving half circles. So they're ahead of me. I'll roll the hinds, roll the fronts. They come over this way. I roll the hinds, roll the fronts, and it's like a windshield wiper exercise. Back and forth they go. At some point, I'll send them around me this side, roll the hinds, and I just keep walking. So now they line up right next to me, and I'll just walk, and I make it easy for them to walk next to me and just be comfortable walking next to me. I just make it easy. The second they pass me again, go right into moving half circles. Good question, Catalina. That's an easy way to make the right thing easy and wrong thing difficult. Jay Palmer, how you doing, pal? Julie Myers, hello. Darles Wallace from Missouri. We got a lot of people from Missouri tonight. You guys are representing. Good job. Jason Smith says, Ty, wondering what kind of tips you have to try to get an older mule softer under saddle. Well, Jason, most most people that are struggling to get their animals soft are struggling with the four quarters of lateral movement. So basically, they have trouble moving the hinds left and right, moving the fronts left and right, and so really, the answer to that, Jason, I'm just going to go through the checklist. Like I'm going to go right through the snaffle bit checklist. That's considering that you have your groundwork going pretty good. If you don't have the groundwork going good, obviously check that stuff off because the groundwork is where you teach that leading rein. But let's say you got your groundwork good on a slack rein. You've checked that off. Okay. In the saddle, I'm going to go through each of those checklist pieces. So we stand still to mount. We work on some lateral flexion. We work on moving the hinds. There's multiple methods of moving the hinds, and I want to get that done on a loose rein. That's one of the things that I missed personally early on, and I know a lot of my students miss in the beginning is they can move the parts. They can move the hinds left and right. They can move the fronts left and right, but they're having to do it with a lot of force. They're having to whack them with their spur. They're pulling with that rein. So I want to do each of those quarter movements with slack in that rein. That's my goal. So Jason, that's where I would start. Those basic pieces. And then, the advanced moves, the advanced stuff, you guys, that's just doing the basics better. All right, what do we got over here? Good question, Jason. Thank you. Um, let's see. All right. Um, okay. Daniel Vantel, 3000. How do you know if a horse or mule has been gentled or abused before you buy an equine? Okay, Chelsea from California. All right, Chelsea from California. Well, spend time before you buy that animal. Spend time with it. Hopefully you can go, and hopefully it's a situation where you can go kind of check some things out. Like if you know the groundwork checklist, you get there, and that's just basic like preschool stuff, the groundwork, you guys. It's so easy. So I would check them out like that. Uh, and you know, there are plenty of mules that have been abused, no doubt, but I kind of don't like it when people use the abuse thing as a cop out. I hear it way more than I think it actually happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I know it happens for sure. But um I think a lot of people believe that just because the mule's scared that it's been abused. Well, you guys, they're these are flight animals, generally, so there's plenty of mules that really they just never been touched, and they can look like they're scared to death, and somebody that wasn't quite sure, they might say, oh, that mule's abused. Well, actually, no, it's just being a natural horse. It's just being a natural mule. When they're just being their natural horse or natural mule, they're going to be scared of things. They're going to be scared of your fast movements and things like that. So anyways, I would simply go through the checklist and see how they respond to that, Chelsea. That's really all I do. And if there's a lot of flight going on, like a lot of usually it's a lot of head tossing stuff that happens when they've been smacked on. So if they're doing this stuff a lot, then you know. But even that is not necessarily true because I got a little mule that's coming 3, and she's a sweetheart. She's a really, really great little baby. Okay, I promise you guys, she'd never been smacked on a day in her life. Like, she lives here. Okay, so this mule has not been abused. But if I kind of move fast around her, she's a sensitive mule. So if I move fast around her, she'll even toss her head. So my advice I just give you about that might not even that might not even be it either, like, but here's the deal, whether they've been abused or not, for me, it doesn't matter. I am going to go through the same process. I'm going to use the same principles. All the principles that will help you train a gentle one will help you train one that's been abused. I'm going to take extreme ownership. Everything they do is going to be because of me. So I'm going to try to set things up in a way that helps them. I'm going to make the right thing easy. I'm going to be consistent. They're all the principles that come through. That's what I'm going to apply. It's a good question. All right. Uh, okay. What else we got here? Karen Wood says, Jason said you catch the smallest fish. Yes, I do catch lots of small fish. But hey, I caught a fish, so I'm happy about that. Mountain Bill, glad you're on here. Tailored Horses, hello from Wickenburg. Glad you're here. What else we got? Lots of cool people on here. Glad you guys are watching. Richard Morgan from Erda. That's awesome. Do you know Shamasaw's out there in Erda? He's been on the podcast before. He's a great guy. Um, Jesse says, I'm a novice, minimal riding over the years. My goal is to have a mule. Should I start with mules or horses? Horses are more common here. Whether you start with mules or horses, I don't think it matters much, Jesse. But but I would just suggest you put yourself in a situation where you can learn a lot. And it kind of depends on how quick you take to learning. Like if you're a quick learner, you can figure stuff out. I've had people that are brand new start with challenging animals, and they learn really fast. But for a lot of people, that's a bad idea. And so I suggest to them, well, start with something really gentle. But horses or mules to start with, I don't really have a preference on that. I meet lots of people that start with horses and they do great. Meet lots of people that start with mules and they do great. So it doesn't really matter on that end of things. Mountain Bill says lots of little fish, quantity or quality. That's right, Mountain Bill. Okay, who else we got on here? Roger says, I'm curious to what most people feed their mules. Roger Garrett. I don't know what most people feed their mules, but I feed my mules like when they're home all winter like this, and we're not doing a whole lot of ton of hard riding, I guess, and they're not burning up a lot of flesh. I'm just feeding them grass hay. They're just getting grass hay most of the time when they're home. When I'm on the road and I'm doing clinics and they're getting used a lot, then I feed alfalfa hay cubes. It's easy for me to get alfalfa hay cubes when I'm on the road, and that's what I feed. And I like them to have plenty of energy and plenty of go, and I like them to stay healthy. So if any of you are done with mules that are kind of skinny, and some of you guys, your mules get a little skinny in the wintertime when they're not getting rode and stuff, give them some alfalfa. That higher protein sure helps a lot. So it kind of depends on what you're doing, Roger, and how much riding you're doing. It's just like people, how much you guys are working and exercising and how much you're doing is going to change what you should be eating. If you're just sitting around, like right now, I'm just sitting around nursing this knee after surgery. I'm trying not to eat a whole lot actually. Like my calorie intake, it's crazy. My calorie intake while I'm sitting around, I'm really eating like less than half as much as I usually eat. Usually I'm going 90 miles an hour all day long and I'm eating a lot. Um, I haven't been doing that. My brain has been going 90 miles an hour. Mountain Built can tell you that. They've been dealing with all my ideas. But same thing with the meals. Valerie, hello. Lori, hello. Ooh, -15, Heidi says in Wisconsin. Dang. Um, all right, what else we got? Looking for some questions. If you guys got questions, you can post them, whether you're Facebook or YouTube. Um, Post away. Um, Larry Ray says, in the 90s, my met an older man from Springfield, Missouri area. He won many saddles roping on his mule. Got to rope with him once. Right on. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to rope on mules, especially in the branding pen. Nicole Johnson, hello. It was fun. I just recorded a podcast before we jump on here with Ron Johnson, Nicole's husband, and he had some great stories about outfitting and packing and gave some great tips on packing elk and bear and all that stuff. It was pretty fun. Bethany says, will there be a replay for this video? It's buffering so much I can't follow. Hey, Bethany. Well, yeah, it'll be posted on, if you're watching on Facebook, it'll be posted thereafter. Or if you guys are watching on YouTube, it'll be on the YouTube channel. All right. What else we got here? Darlis asking about the knee. It's doing good, Darlis. Healing up. Question: where is a good place near Missouri to buy mule to train, preferably train to rope? In Missouri, there's a lot of great people. Lauren Bassam, uh, Les Clancy. Shoot, there's a bunch of people around there. Look up a couple of those guys, Larry Ray. There's that Huzzah Valley mule cell coming up that looks pretty good. Kate Stoffel's got a question. Let's see what we got here. What advice do you have for starting a seasoned pack mule under saddle? He's 10, quite heavy and braced from overhandling for sure. Yeah. Pack mules are hard to get light, Kate, for sure. They've been drugged around, and also pack mules haven't had to do a whole lot of thinking, right? They get behind that butt and they follow. So the hardest thing is to get them thinking. Um, let's see what else we got. Yeah. So is it worth it to saddle train him to have more versatile animal in our fleet? Yes. I I like all my pack mules to be able to ride, Kate. It's so expensive to keep mules these days, you guys. Um, if I they need to be able to pack and ride. I think so. That's what all mine are going to have to do. So if I'm going to start a pack mule when it's already been packed, like you're saying, Kate, really I'm just going to go through the process, and you know the process. I'm going to go through the groundwork. I'm going to go through the ride and step by step. But it's going to take. I just need to see it from that mule's perspective. This mule's 10 years old, been packed a lot. He hasn't. It sounds like he hasn't had to do a lot of thinking. Um, and so you're gonna have to just be patient and realize that it's not gonna be exactly the same as if you were starting a colt. You're starting a young colt, they're sensitive and they're light and all that stuff, and you'll be good to go. You know. But this pack mule, I just have to. see their abilities and work from that point. But really, the process is no different. Um, you might find with working those pat mules like that, if he's pretty bracy and kind of shut down, you're gonna get him to do a movement. Maybe on the ground, you clear the fronts. And when he comes through for you, you need to give him a good chance to have that dwell time, have that soak time, and really come down and let him kind of come out of it and think because he hasn't had to think a lot. So you'll find the soak time on that 10-year-old is probably going to be quite a bit more than if you were starting a 3-year-old. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lots of people on YouTube over here making fun of catching small fish. Mountain Bill is egging them on. Um, all right. Let's see. Richard Morgan, my 18-month Molly is starting to get a little aggressive. Could this be because she's getting bored? Yeah, you bet. Engage her, Richard. 18 months old, that year and a half mark, you're gonna notice something. They're gonna start to do a lot with their mouths. And watch out. I would be careful categorizing it necessarily as aggressive if you're seeing that. There's a lot of curiosity happening, but something that does come across to us as aggressive, but for them is just life is at 18 months, they want to know who moves who. The herd dynamic for them is changing. They're going to be pretty submissive when they're babies, but that year and a half to 2-year-old mark, they kind of want to know where they're going to belong in that herd. So they're going to start moving the other animals. And remember, whether you realize it or not, you're part of the herd. And so if they attempt to move you, Richard, you got to make sure that that doesn't come through for them. Move their feet, but then make sure you don't move their feet just to be the boss. You move their feet and you provide comfort when they do move their feet for you. So there's always something good that's going to come out of me asking my mule a question. They're always going to feel better for it. And that's pretty important because you can get to button heads with them at that point. You don't want to do that. But yeah, that's normal. You just don't want to be on the receiving end of that, Richard. So start going through the groundwork. A year and a half, you can do all the groundwork checklist. Excuse me, all the groundwork checklist at a year and a half, just fine. So start going through it. Daniel, or that's Chelsea. Where can we find info on the checklist you're talking about before buying equine? Our video library, Chelsea, on go to tsmules.com and there's tons of videos. And there's videos about what to do when you're looking to buy mules and tips on buying mules and all that kind of stuff on there too. So check that out. Lee Freeman, hello from Nebraska. How's it going? Long ear rider. Ty, do you ever come to Kentucky? Yeah, we done some clinics in Kentucky. The last time I did a clinic, we did at the what was it called? Mammoth Caves. Yeah, Mammoth Mammoth Cave Campground, something like that. What type of rope would you recommend for a beginner that had never roped before? Um, for somebody brand new, um, at for roping, go to go to 310, uh, 310 ropes. Just Google 310 ropes or there's a company called Cowboy Cordage. There's a lot of rope companies, but those two, go on there and they actually have some little tutorials on if you're starting to rope and what they recommend. Um, ropes, there's all kinds of different ropes, you guys. There's all kinds of ropes out there. And you know what what happens with a lot of beginners, and this is just my perspective of it. A lot of them, they kind of like the feel of a softer rope. However, the softer ropes are kinda made for fancier shots, like hip shots and things like that, and they're made to do different things. So, the beginner, it feels good to hold a soft rope, but then they can't catch anything with it, and then they get discouraged. So, even going down to your local feed store, most of them have, like, head and ropes and heel and ropes, something that's a little bit stiffer, has some more body to it. Grab one of them, and that that stiffness will hold itself, and you'll have more success, and you'll build some confidence with it. Okay, let's see what else we got on here. Yeah, Mountain Belt says there's a yeah, we have a all of you that are asking about where to find the checklist, go to tsmules.com. We have a 3 free day trial, a free 3-day trial going on there. So you guys can check it out, see if you like it. All right, Ron Johnson. We just was talking a minute ago, huh? Jennifer, hello. Nacho and Clifford say hello. I like those names. Marisa, what's up? How's it going? Tell old Chris hi for me. Kelly Moore Fryman, hello from Ohio. Megan from Florida, hello. Um, Sandy from Arizona, hello. Kevin, let's see. Kevin says something here. Kevin says, love your dip trotting advice in the saddle. Would you have any different advice for leading a mule over creek and dips? Well, yeah, been working them not running me over. So Kevin's question is about going down through a dip, and I like my mules to walk through the dips. I don't want them to trot through. We joke, but it's not really a joke that the sign of a well-trained mule is one that can walk through those dips and carry themselves and not just give themselves up and trot through that. So, but Kevin's question, because we have videos and stuff on the video library about dip trotting and how to fix that. Kevin's question is about actually leading them through and would I do anything different? The nice thing about leading them through, Kevin, is they don't have to pack you. So it's different if you got a pack saddle on them and gear, that's going to be harder for them for sure. But if they don't have anything on them, Kevin, and you're just leading them through, well, they can definitely carry themselves. So one thing I'll do if I'm leading them is I'll start down the dip and I will stop before I actually commit to going down. And I'll back my mule up and I'll back the one I'm leading up. And then we back up out of the dip. And then we go down maybe halfway in it or maybe three-quarters of the way in it, and then I'll back them out again. And I do lots of stuff like that when I'm leading them, and that helps a lot. Of course, obviously, you got to have a mule that you're riding that's broken enough to back up a hill, and that takes a good hind end on a mule to be able to back uphill. Um, but that's how I teach my colts, my babies, to go through those dips. That way, when it's time to go out for my first ride on a colt, they're not trotting through those dips nearly as much as they would have otherwise. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of wrecks when people are first riding their colts outside because of dip trotting. So, Kevin, your question is great. Taking care of that before you actually ride those colts outside. I highly recommend that. So, backing uphill does a lot of great things. Also, pausing in the bottom does a lot of great things. Also, going up part way and then backing back downhill and getting them back. All those things. So they're just kind of waiting on you. Obviously, you got to have one that rides good. Long Ear Rider says, "What's the best feed or supplement for my senior mule?" Um, so for the senior mules, I would feed them alfalfa so they have plenty of protein. That's what puts those old ones under usually is they don't not get enough protein in there. They get weak, and so feed the old ones alfalfa. And then as far as a supplement, you can do your research. Stanley Feeds has all kinds of cool research about different supplements and feed, and so it'd be best to consult with one of those equine nutritionalists for that. A lot of vets have some good information on nutrition there too, but there's people that are actually equine nutritionalists for their profession. I'm not one of those, long ear rider. So, in just my experience, pretty much the only supplement I ever add if I'm trying to keep weight on an old one, Omaline makes like a complete feed that's like called Omaline 400. um, there's also a senior feed that they have that I fed and just keep extra weight on them, but that's all I've ever done. One of the best things for the older mule too is make sure you're giving them exercise. Keep them riding, keep them young. That's very important. All right, what else we got? What's your perspective on having equines on your property versus at a stable where there's a community of people to learn from? So I have never uh I've I've never had to have my mules, um, at a stable. I mean, I guess you could say every week at a different clinic. It's kinda like that. But I've never had to board and pay for boarding. I've always had them at my own place or somewhere that I leased. So that's important to me. I've always, you know, growing up, I always just wanted to have my mules on my property, and I worked hard to get a property where I could have them in my backyard. I just like them right here. I like to literally walk out my back door and, they're right there. So I like that. People that board though, there is a lot of advantage of keeping them somewhere as long as it's a good community. So if you're going to board your mule, your horse, do some research on the place, go there and search and think about and see what's going on. Like what type of horsemanship do they practice there? Um, you'll notice that every barn has its own culture, and you got to be careful with that because you make sure that that culture fits your standards. Uh, because it can be tough. It can be really tough if you don't mesh with those people. So that's something to consider. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about that. Sorry. I don't have the experience with that. Ron Johnson says, "Do you have a preference on the size of Hackamore?" Yeah, Ron, depending on what level I'm on. So when I first go from the snaffle bit to the Hackamore, I am probably going to be in a 5/8. Now, if I'm on a smaller mule, so Ron, you remember my mule Hannah, and Heidi's on here. She bought Hannah, but Hannah she's such a little and has such a little petite head that 5/8 was kind of big for her. And I had her so stinking light in that snaffle bit that I could go to a smaller Hackamore and get away with it. So like her, when I transitioned her to the Hackamore, I went to a half inch. You got rum chata, and he's quite a bit bigger than Hannah was, so I would recommend for you to go to a 5/8 rawhide, and get something with some good life in it. So not something too too stiff. In fact, I got it right here. Hold on just a second. I got to hobble over here. Hold on. I'll grab it for you, and you can see what I'm talking about. Sorry, I gotta jump because of my knee. All right. So this is can we see this all right? This is my half inch. When we're talking about the diameter of a Hackamore, we're talking about the bars. These are the bars on the side. This is the nose button. This is the heel knot. And so this is a half inch. But a 5/8 is a good start. And then, like true Hackamore reinsmen, they a lot of them will start like in a 3/4, and then they go to a 5/8, and then they go to a half inch, and they taper down, and then they'll even go to a leather. Because I get things going pretty dang good in a snaffle bit, then I don't go through all the transitions of Hackamores. So like Hannah, when I was just talking about that meal, for example, I was in the snaffle bit for a couple years, and she was doing excellent, super, super light. Then I went to this. This is the one I used on her right here. Um, and this is the half inch. And we were in this half inch for about a year. And then I went to the 2 rein. And in the 2 rein, I went to a 3/8 when I was in the 2 rein. And I got that over there too, but I don't want to hop over there again. So sorry. But um that's what I did when I went to the 2 rein. You can have these nose buttons be all like this nose button right here. I don't know what size it is. I'm guessing this is probably close to 3/4 on this nose button. 5/8 or 3/4, I'd say. Good question, Ron. Yeah, Mountain Bell says, "Heck yeah, Ron! Can't wait to see rum chata and Hackamore." Me too. Ron's gonna make a bridal meal out of rum chata. Bush Pony says, "How would shaping a Hackamore for a mule differ from a horse? Longer, wider?" It's not different at all. It's just like the horse's bush pony. When you're shaping the hackamore, um, it you're looking for this more of a rectangle shape, than the when it's made, it has this, if I squeeze it together, it has this teardrop shape. So you're looking to get it wider right here and a little wider down here like this, just so your hackamore should fit just like your hat on that nose. It should fit just smooth all the way around. The biggest thing when you're shaping the hackamore is you don't want gaps up here over the bridge of the nose. That's what you want to avoid. So, good question. All right. Anything else, guys? Christy says, "What is your choice of bits for mules?" So, Christy, I start all my mules in a snaffle bit, just a smooth mouth, two-piece O-ring snaffle bit. Okay, and I get them going good in the snaffle bit. Then, like Ron was just asking, I go to the hackamore. Okay, after the hackamore, I go to the two rein. In the two rein, I'll probably use a half breed for most mules. If they're pretty light, then I'll use a spade. And then after the two rein, we're straight up in the bridle in either that half breed or the spade, depending on what we got. Bush Point says, "How do you know what size hackamore to get?" 10. So when you're talking about the size of the hackamore, um, besides talking about the diameter, Bush Pony, which like this is a half inch, like we're talking about. That's measuring the bars. They measure the length. It's from the inside of the nose button right here to the top of the heel knot. So different makers have different little formulas for you to measure on your equine, but that's the measurement. So your animal's nose needs to fit right in there, okay, between that. Um, and you need to leave enough room right here to tie your Makati on. So really, my Mackay is going to be tied clear up to this point right here. So I need to leave probably a 2 inch space right here, for my Makati to fit. So when I look at measure the side of that mule's nose, I usually will measure from the top of the bridge of the nose down to the middle, under their jaw, and take that measurement, and then that'll get you pretty close on this. Most mules, what is this? Measured this for you the other day, Heidi. How long was this? I can't remember. I think it was a 11 inch. Okay, what else we got on here? We're about out of time, guys. I got to go in just a second. Sky is on an adventure, and she needs some help with some stuff, so I got to call her real quick. But anything real quick? Let's see. Megan says, "How do you introduce a halter to a mule who's afraid of putting her arm around his neck? I can put his nose in the rope halter, but when I reach..." So, okay, so Megan's question, the mule's scared when she's putting her arm over the neck. You know, one of the sweet spots to pet a mule or donkey or a horse is at the wither. Okay. And you just get to where you can rub on that wither and get them real comfy with that, Megan. And then work your way up the mane. And they like their mane just rubbed on. A lot of people think mules like to be patted and whacked. They don't. Scratch along that mane all the way up, and you get really good about scratching on that mane. And then pretty soon you start going down the neck on each side. And before you know it, you'll get them good. But that's all I do, make it simple as that. You just get them good about petting on it, and then it really shouldn't be that big of a deal, to introduce that rope over them. The other thing you can do, and you can do this from a distance, I do this a ton. I rope my mules a ton. I just throw ropes around them all the time. My mules are going to be in the branding pen, roping. All my mules are going to be packed off of. So ropes are just involved in my life. Like there's always ropes. So from the beginning, when they're babies, I rope them all the time. So, and you don't actually have to catch them, Megan. I mean, just throw your rope around them. So get a rope, coil it up, and throw it over their back, and then coil it up, throw it over their back. And I mean, seriously, you could. That's the type of stuff. I don't like to use the word desensitize much. I would prefer the word familiarize. I'm going to get them pretty darn familiar with that rope. I'm going to do a ton of it. So do a lot of that between the rope and the scratching. You'll have them caught in no time. Well, guys, I gotta go. I know we got a few more questions on here. If we didn't get to your questions, I apologize. Keep them, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday at 5 o'clock Mountain Time live. So be here early at 5 and post them right away, and I'll try to get to them. But I appreciate you guys being here. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe. If you want more information, we got a ton of videos on the video library. Go to tsmules.com. Right now, we have a free 3-day trial on there. Go on there, check it out. And anyways, you guys, thank you so much. I hope you have the best day ever. God bless you all, and we'll see you down the road. Okie dokie. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.